All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMAUnhinged. It's been a while, but we're back. Me and Oscar are here to talk about one of the few good events of this year. We've got UFC London returning, and obviously UFC Long Island. That was a fantastic show. So we've got lots to talk about. How's it going over there, Oscar?
It's going fantastic, man. It's awesome to see the UFC back on the road. Those UFC Apex events, they just feel a little subpar at times because the fans bring a special kind of energy, and we had a special kind of energy in the building at the UBS Arena on Long Island, New York, and it was a really fun event, top to bottom. I say we get right into it.
Absolutely. Main event, as you talked about, top to bottom is fantastic. And the main event, on paper, before heading into it, it was good. But, the finish, it was a bit anticlimactic, to say the least.
100%. I see a lot of takes out there saying that Yair Rodriguez won this fight via submission, and there's an argument for it. There really is. Yair Rodriguez was the guy that put Brian Ortega in a bad spot, a spot where Brian Ortega had to pull his arm out, thus tearing the labrum in his shoulder. And it's not just Yair Rodriguez's skills that won in this fight. Let's be real. It's just Brian Ortega's vulnerable shoulder. And this is still a win for a year, but let's be real. It wasn't just the skills. It wasn't just the technique that won him this fight. But nonetheless, he's now in a spot where he will fight for a belt next. I really see it being that way. He either fights Volkanovski next, or he fights Josh Emmett for an interim belt. He's in a good spot right now. Brian Ortega, on the other hand, you have to feel bad for him. He's coming off a long layoff, a fight of the year contender. He lost, but he barely lost to Volkanovski because he almost had him there. And this is a tough one for him. Now two losses in a row. His next opponent is gonna get wrecked, man. Brian Ortega will be coming out very motivated for the next one. I'm still very confident that he would have won this fight because a lot of people were saying that Yair Rodriguez would piece him up on the feet, but he needed to get takedowns. He got a takedown in the first round, and Yair Rodriguez only tires out more as the fight goes. So I'm really confident Brian Ortega would have submitted him had this freak accident not happened, but you still got to give props to Yair. He did not fear Brian on the ground. He went for a submission attempt right away, and it got him the win.
Absolutely, and as you talked about, it's a fantastic. And early on, Yair Rodriguez was piecing up Brian Ortega.
100%. We didn't get to preview this card, but I picked Brian Ortega a third round submission. But I also knew that Yair Rodriguez had a big speed advantage, and he's obviously the cleaner, more experienced striker. So he was going to piece up Brian. That's what happens to Brian in every fight. If you look at the Renato Moicano fight, the Cub Swanson fight, he's getting outstruck. But all he needs is the fight to go to the floor once, and he wraps up a submission. That's what I was expecting to see here. But we just got Brian Ortega getting pieced up. And Yair Rodriguez, as long as this fight went, he was winning the fight. So good win on the resume for Yair, but I feel like this is a rematch we got to see.
Absolutely agree. Definitely, as you talked about a rematch, we definitely want to see, and obviously it was a fantastic card. Main event didn't live up to it, but if we see it down the road, I feel like obviously the fighters won it probably because it ended in a way they both probably didn't want. So maybe we'll definitely see it down the line, maybe hopefully next as well. But it was a fantastic. As I talked about main card and the co-main event, Amanda Lemos. She put a hammer down on the octagon this night. A fantastic performance against Michelle Watson Gomez. I mean, finished her with a submission guillotine choke. What a performance. So I feel like she's shown levels to her game every single fight.
Yeah, this was really impressive to me. Nobody really does this till Watson Gomez. Watson Gomez goes to decision with everybody. Joanna Young, Jacek, Angela Hale, everybody. But she fought Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos is a true anomaly in women's MMA. The girl has legitimate one-punch KO power. She has the most knockdowns in the history of the women's divisions. She's an absolute menace. And she's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and she flexed that this time around. Watson Gomez, if she wanted to win this fight, probably had to shoot takedowns, but she forgot Lemos has a nasty guillotine. She got caught in that second round with it. And the referee did not even see the tap originally. But Watson Gomez was actually clearly affected by having the air restricted to her brain. And she really admits that she was done there. Lemos in the first round, I thought landed better shots. Waterson Gomez got the takedown at the end, but she didn't really do much damage. So Lemos to me looked good in this fight, and she really was untouched in this fight. So much so, she's already booked on October 22nd, UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. She's fighting who I personally see as the number 2 contender right now, Marina Rodriguez. Big win streak, only lost to Carla Esparza, the champion. She's taking on Amanda Lemos. I have no idea why Marina would take that fight. Lemos is like number 7, I think. That's a big step down in terms of the rankings. But if Lemos wins that fight, which she has a very good shot of winning, that would do wonderful.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic fight, and I think the striking matchup, that's what probably intrigues everyone in that fight.
Yeah, I think that's a coin flip right now for me. Like, very hard to know who's going to win that one. But cannot wait for it. UFC 280 is insanely stacked. The top of the bill, we have Charles Oliveira, former champion, versus Islam Makhachev. Co-main event, we have Aljamain Sterling, the champion, versus TJ Dillashaw. Then we have Piotr Yan versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Then we got Bilal Muhammad versus Sean Brady.
Wow.
Then we got Beneil Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot. That is the card of the year right there.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic card here in Abu Dhabi as well. So that'll be interesting. Obviously, they'll go back to the Yas Arena, I do believe.
Yeah, it's called the Etihad Arena in Yas Island. Cannot wait for that. Move on now to the next fight. This is another underdog that I picked on this card. Li Jingliang. He got himself a second round knockout versus Muslim Salikov, the king of Kung Fu. So this was a tricky fight for Li. Li, of course, coming off the loss to Hamza Chimaev, he needed a confidence booster, and here it is. Muslim, I know he's on a big win streak. He's got a lot of crazy knockouts in the UFC. His big problem is always submission defense, but we really didn't get to see that here. Muslim Salikov, he won that first round with output. He got himself a takedown. Sure, he won that round, but come round 2, all Li Jingliang needed to do was let those hands go. And once they touched Muslim, I know he never got knocked out in MMA, but once you're 38, you're bound to get caught sooner rather than later. That's what happened. Muslim couldn't recover well, and Li Jingliang landed a vicious jab to the body, setting up for the finishing blow. Crazy knockout for the Leech. This is a guy you really don't want to stand and bang with. It doesn't matter who you're with. It doesn't matter what kind of win streak you're on. He's very dangerous, and it looks like he's improving to me. He just knocked out a guy who's got like 100 kickboxing fights. So the Leech is the real deal, and his next fight should be a big one.
Exactly, and obviously Salikov has never been finished inside of MMA, so now Li Jingliang holds that. So fantastic. Salikov has took some phenomenal shots, but when you take a shot from the Leech, it seems to be different.
Yeah, 100%. Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's coming off a 7-fight win streak. He fought a lot of powerful punches in that run, and he comes back, fights a Leech, gets clipped with one good one, and he's stiff as a board. Li Jingliang really has started believing in his power, and he's putting away world-class strikers with that power. So, for me, Li Jingliang, his next opponent, should be Kevin Holland. I feel like if he knocks out Kevin Holland, that would really bolster his name up in the eyes of fans.
Absolutely, it would be a fantastic. Obviously, talked about a fantastic accomplishment. Knocking out Kevin Holland, obviously making that move down to 170, and as of late, looking good down there at 170. But it was, as I talked about, it was a fantastic main card, and I felt like this really topped off the whole card. This is the main talking point as we talk about before we go on. Sumadershi was one punch or one action away from winning this fight. And here we are talking about Matt Chanel actually winning the fight. It was crazy. If you haven't watched this, go watch round 2. Oscar texted me, arguably round of the year. That's going to be up there for round of the year, definitely.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite moments of the entire year. Matt Chanel, in that first round, he fought pretty smart to me. He was getting outstruck on the feet, obviously, by Sumadershi, the more powerful, the younger guy. But then he got a takedown. And I was very confident that Matt Chanel will get a submission in this fight because Matt Chanel is a black belt. And Sumadershi, in his last couple fights, whenever he fights a decent grappler, he gets tapped. He's not good on the ground. and he showed it off in this fight. But credit to him, he didn't get submitted that first round. I scored the first round for Matt Schnell. Come the second round, goodness gracious, Sumadarshi rocks Matt Schnell not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times. He rocks him like 6 times. There's like 6 different moments when Matt Schnell is straight up frozen, looks like he's out on his feet. Shout out to the referee, Jacob Montalvo. It looked like he was ready to stop it at any moment for a good 2.5 minutes. And somehow, someway, Matt Schnell does not get knocked out. He actually got dropped, and somehow he recovered. He bounced right back up. It really is shocking to me because Matt Schnell, whenever he stands and bangs with guys, it doesn't go well for him. He's gone to sleep several times in the octagon. Pantoja put him straight out. So I was thinking if he stands and bangs with Sumadarshi, he's absolutely screwed. But somehow he survived. The guy was like a Terminator out there. You could hit him with your best shot, and he just recovers extraordinarily well. And then Sumadarshi starts to tire. He gets hit with a super stiff jab. He gets taken down. He gets put in bottom position with Schnell on full mount. And he starts getting hit with insanely sharp elbows. They cut him up really bad. And then Schnell kind of like pulls guard, goes for a signature triangle, and Sumadarshi passes out. You heard DC on commentary. DC was losing his mind. I didn't know his voice could go that high. This is one of the all-time great comebacks I've ever seen in MMA. The momentum swing of this fight is really extraordinary. If you're talking about best comebacks of all time, this is definitely in the top 3, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely agree. I mean, it's a phenomenal match, a phenomenal fight. Just as you talked about, the momentum swings are ridiculous. At one point, Matt Schnell out on his feet, that beautifully timed elbow in the clinch. It was phenomenal from Sumadarshi. And I feel like on a different day, it would have been his night. But I feel like on this day, nobody would have stopped Matt Schnell.
Yeah, Matt Schnell, he's falling on bad luck. He was supposed to fight Alex Price like 3 separate times. The fight never really happened. Kept on cutting weight for no reason. And then he fights, who was it? Brandon Royval. He drops Brandon Royval. But then eventually he gets submitted in 2 minutes. But yeah, crazy bounce back for Schnell. Had he lost the fight, he might have gotten cut too. That's what's crazy. Now everybody is talking about this guy as one of the biggest studs on the roster because this guy has 0 quit in him.
I do think Sumadarshi can come back from this 100%. I think this is a good learning point for Sumadarshi because obviously he did look good in the fight, to be honest. He did look good. He's striking. He looked powerful. Just obviously that, the submission defense he'll probably need to top up on. He put himself in some bad positions on the ground, and that's where he ultimately paid. Yeah,
Schnell, to me, he was pretty much unstoppable on this night. He really came in motivated. And to me, like Schnell, like this is just one of those weird situations where a guy with a pretty poor chin shows up really durable for no reason. Like to give you an example, Michael Chandler, he got knocked out by Charles Oliveira in round 2, and his next fight he takes Gaethje's best punches for 15 minutes. It's just inexplicable. And yeah, shouts out to Matt Schnell, the MVP of the whole card. This is a moment we're going to be talking about at the end of the year for comeback of the year, round of the year, insanity. Just straight up insanity. Maybe even submission of the year. We'll move on now to the fight we actually thought was going to be fight of the night. Shane Burgos beat Charles Jourdain by split decision, by majority decision. I mean, Shane Burgos, I felt, had a really bad performance in this fight, and he still managed to win. So that shows you the work he did with his grappling in rounds 1 and 2 was rewarded by the judges. But if you score this with pride rules, it's not even close. Charles Jourdain did an insane amount of damage to him. Right now we're looking at the ESPN websites, and they color code damage on fighters' bodies. Shane Burgos is red top to bottom, and Charles Jourdain is like a light yellow. That shows you the damage that was dished out in this fight. Shane Burgos, to me, handily lost the first round. A lot of people were saying it was close. Wasn't really close to me. Charles Jourdain doubled him up on significant strikes. I know Shane Burgos got a takedown. He got like a minute and a half of control time. To me, that was not enough at all to steal that round. I scored first round for Charles Jourdain. Round two, Shane Burgos really gets it going with his grappling. And this was very surprising to me. Shane Burgos never grapples guys, really. He's always looking to stand and bang, but this time he respected Charles Jourdain's heat that he brought on the feet, and he goes for a takedown, gets the body triangle, cranks on the neck. But Charles Jourdain, very tough. He's a black belt, so he survives that round, but it was a very dominant round for Shane Burgos. So dominant, one judge scored a 10-8 for Shane Burgos in the round. I believe it was Mike Bell. I didn't score a 10-8 for Burgos in that round. He didn't do enough damage in my eyes. Come round three, Shane Burgos is in a spot that he hasn't been before in the UFC. He had a guy in a body triangle for a round, so his legs are jello. They're full of lactic acid. They're very heavy. Can't move them quite well. So he's a standing target for Charles Jourdain, and Burgos' head movement, it's not really to avoid the punches, it's just to roll with the punches. And Charles Jourdain lands an incredible amount of strikes, and it goes very poor for Shane Burgos. Rocked on multiple occasions that round. I scored a 10-8 for Charles Jourdain, so I scored this fight 29-27 for Charles Jourdain. And the judges, of course, gave the hometown rub to Shane Burgos. Very impressive performance from Charles Jourdain. And Shane Burgos, you listen to any of his post-fight press conferences. The guy was very disappointed in his performance. He sounded like he had lost the fight, which in my eyes, he did.
I mean, absolutely, it was a really close fight, and obviously, depending what you like to score, it is who you're going to award the winner. I talked about that second round. No damage done. Definitely not a 10-8. Definitely a 10-9 in my eyes. I agree with that. I thought it could have went either way. It charged her down, obviously, in that third round was just all over. Shane Burgos was like an absolute wasp. It was incredible. The first round, I think it's what you prefer, and it could go either way. I think on the night I did give it to Shane Burgos, so I think I think I gave it 29-28 Burgos. So that was interesting. So it was a good fight nonetheless. Both fought the heat. Obviously Shane Burgos getting back-to-back wins now, and Charles Jourdain, obviously there's no shame in that performance. In that third round, he looked like at one point he could have got Shane out of there.
Yeah, I was very surprised that Charles Jourdain did that well, because Shane Burgos, traditionally, he's firing back strikes, when he's in his brawls, but it appeared to me that the legs were too heavy for Shane, so he couldn't, stand his ground like he usually does. So bad performance by Burgos, good performance by Jourdain. Jourdain, this is his first time fighting a ranked guy, and he looked really good. I think Charles Jourdain will enter the rankings in the next couple of years for sure. The guy has a really good, well-rounded skill set. The wrestling is definitely his big flaw, so if he can fix that up, we're looking at a real player at featherweight. Move on now to the main card opener. Lauren Murphy defeats Miesha Tate by unanimous decision. Miesha Tate was one of my most confident picks on this card. I thought she would have like a strength advantage in this fight because she was the former bantamweight champion, but you look at her on the scales and my confidence kind of, it really decreased there. Because you look at Miesha Tate, it wasn't like it was like a bad cut or anything. You just look at her body. She looks like a flyweight. If she looked like a Talia Santos on the scale, then I'd have some confidence. But she didn't look all that big to me. And in terms of punching power, it's not really there. Probably decreased at this weight class. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, I didn't really know what she was doing for the past year since the Shevchenko loss. And what she was doing, she went to a new camp and she changed her quarter around and she really looked improved to me, which is shocking. She's like 37, 38. She's never looked better. She's never looked quicker. Miesha Tate to me didn't look like she had a fire in her belly. This fight week, she was overlooking Lauren Murphy. She had her kids out in the crowd. She was waving to him and everything. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, was very fired up, very motivated, and she pieced up Miesha Tate for 3 rounds. That's the story of this fight. Miesha Tate's head movement was not there at all. It didn't look like she was really committing to anything. She was not all that aggressive. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, was very mean in there, constantly throwing strikes, and it looked like she had a power edge, and she was able to negate Tate's wrestling, which I thought Tate's wrestling was going to be the key to winning this fight, Lauren Murphy did incredibly well for herself in this fight, and she looked career best. Yeah, Miesha Tate for a future. Honestly, I would say retire because it doesn't look like she's gonna fight for a belt again, and that was the original motivation for her to fight for a belt. And if you can't beat Lauren Murphy, you're probably not getting a title shot. But Miesha Tate probably gonna stick around. She obviously loves the sport. She's already financially stable, but Lauren Murphy is definitely hungrier and in really good form right now.
Absolutely agree. And at 135, where she's lost to was it Caitlin Vieira, and that was the title implication on that one, and she lost it, and now she drops down a division and she loses again. So as you'll talk about, where's the hunger now moving forward for Miesha Tate? And it's hard for me to see where it is, and I completely agree with you. Title shot is probably not in the future, nor in the distant future. Anyway, she needs to change something significantly if she wants to move forward. I liked everything that you said about this fight, but I want to top on how I don't know if you mentioned how slow Miesha Tate looked in this fight as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes fighters just have enough. They don't punch as quickly as usual. I don't know what the deal was with Miesha Tate here, but Lauren Murphy to me looked pretty quick. And Miesha, I don't know, maybe it's just the damage she took. It's really hard to calculate why she was that slow. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, was very physically strong in this fight. Oh, people forget she actually has fought as high as featherweight before. She was fairly successful bantamweight in the UFC, but she cuts down to flyweight quite comfortably. So Miesha Tate lost the power she had at bantamweight, and she suffered as a result. Now we move on to the prelims. Prelims were very fun too. Punahele Soriano knocks out Dalcha Lungiambula in round 2. This is exactly what I predicted here. Dalcha, of course, does not have great gas tank. Usually a guy that succeeds well early in the fight, but he falls apart later as the fight goes. That's what happened here. But I did score the first round for Punahele Soriano. And at the end of the round, Dalcha's rib pops out. I don't know if Puna knew that, but he still went right for the head, knocks out Dalcha. Vicious KO. This is Puna's first second round knockout in the UFC. A lot of people thought he was a first round or bust kind of guy. He proves them wrong, and he snaps that losing streak that was on. It was a really tough win streak he was on. Losing streak he was on, and now he comes back to his winning ways, and he probably sent Dalcha Lungiambula right out of the UFC.
Absolutely agree, and obviously Puna, this was a big fight for him. 2 losses back to back. He desperately needed a win, and he got back to winning ways, and the ways that Puna Soriano before he lost, that we know of him. The knockout wins over Dusko Todorovic, absolutely starching the guy, and obviously getting the win over here against Dalcha. Phenomenal performance, a great win, and obviously getting back to the win column. That was the most important thing, and obviously on the verge of getting cut, so he got that one back. So. I got to see him inside the UFC. Obviously, got some heavy hands. His punches are like mules. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Punahele Soriano really believes in his power, and in this fight, he was a little more measured, I would say, than his other fights. Dalcha, I really thought if he was going to win this fight, he was going to have continuous grappling success, but he got 2 takedowns, couldn't even get 2 minutes of control time. Punahele Soriano, he's a solid defensive grappler. I know he's lost via grappling a couple fights, but Dalcha, I don't know. I feel like he was more effective at light heavyweight. This weight cut really drains him. But yeah, now it's time for Dalcha to look for employment elsewhere in the MMA world. Now we'll move on to the next fight. At bantamweight, Ricky Simone submits Jack Shore in round 2 via arm triangle. Ricky Simone is on a fantastic run. And I didn't foresee this run because he got knocked out by a 40-year-old Uriah Faber back in 2019. And I thought this kid kind of had like a glass jaw, honestly. And he proved me wrong. He really has gone on an outstanding run. And now he beat a 16-0 prospect in Jack Shore. Jack Shore is exactly what you want to see in terms of technique. But I'm not entirely sure he's an athlete the level of Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone looked quicker. He looked more powerful in this fight. and that's what won in this fight. He was able to win that first round with his constant takedown attempts and his big hooks and elbows. Jack Shore to me just looked uh, quite impressed by the physicality of Simone. And then round 2, Jack Shore gets clipped. He falls over. Ricky Simone gets his back. Instead, Shore turns over. And Simone, his signature submission, in my opinion, is that arm triangle. That's how he got Gaetano Perello. And he gets it on Jack Shore, who's a very good grappler himself. So, to me, Simone couldn't have been more impressive in this fight.
Absolutely agree. A phenomenal performance from Ricky. And obviously, beating Shaw, it was tough for me to see this because obviously Shaw is a fantastic prospect. Still a lot to come from. Obviously, a prospect will find a day that he's going to run into someone that's better than him on that day. And obviously, Ricky Simone was better than him on this day. I think this is obviously, I talk about lessons, and Shaw will come back from this and he'll improve. I think maybe a strength and conditioning or whatever he's doing right now. Just he still looks like he's in a teenager body. And if you look at Simon, he looks built. He looks like an absolute different animal.
Yeah, Simone really has not been out-muscled by anybody, not named Maram Tavalishvili. And even in that fight, he gets himself the guillotine victory. Although I did think that was an incorrect call by the referee. I thought Maram was just tired. But either way, Simone has got some quality wins in this division. Rafael Assunção, Jack Shore, and Merab, who's in the top 5, I believe. So, Ricky Simone, I think we're looking at a future top 10 guy, maybe top 5 guy. We'll move on now to the featherweight division. A fight between Bill Algeo and Herbert Burns. I thought this was going to be the fight event for a little bit here. Bill Algeo got the second round TKO via exhaustion. Bill Algeo was in a tough spot to begin this fight. Herbert Burns is able to attempt 2 submissions on him. He had him in a very tight triangle, but people don't realize that Bill Algeo, he's fought 2 black belts in the UFC already. He fought Joe Anderson Brito, and he fought Ricardo Lamas, and he did well for himself on the ground. He did not really get totally out-grappled in those fights to the point where he was very really struggling. Herbert Burns really had him in a rough spot. But Bill Algeo, he stayed calm. He didn't get overwhelmed. And once Herbert Burns blew his knee out, he was really done. Not only did he blow his knee out, he was completely exhausted. Herbert Burns, I don't know what he's doing for strength and conditioning, but man, oh man, I don't know what's going on with this guy. In his last fight, he fought Daniel Pineda. Looks good in the first round, and the wheels fall off the tractor in round 2. Just cannot defend himself because he's so tired. And that's what happened here. He failed to get those submissions, and Bill Algeo gets on top, pounds on Herbert, and then on the feet, he's punishing him as well. And then come round 2, Algeo gets a takedown, pounds on him. Herbert is completely exhausted. He just can't get to his feet. He blew his knee out. The fight is over. Bill Algeo, he's exactly like Billy Quarantilli and Julian Erosa, man. He'll survive that early storm, and then in the late rounds, he'll punish you. That's what he did to Herbert Burns. This is exactly how I saw this fight going, besides the finish. But yeah, Bill Algeo is always entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fantastic fight, and obviously, the knee of Herbert Burns. If you after round 1, Gilbert getting in the corner and saying "Don't quit on me." So, did you think Gilbert knew it was sort of coming that he was quitting himself a little bit?
Yeah, you see this a lot in the UFC. One sibling is like way better than the other. We see with Antonina and Valentina. I think we saw with Jim Miller's brother, I believe it was.
I'm Dan Miller.
I don't know why, but one sibling always appears to be way superior, and that's the case here. Herbert Burns, of course, started training a little later. I think he's like 34 now. So this is really bad news. The guy already was coming off a 2-year layoff. And then he blows out his knee again. It's really unfortunate. I don't think he's a top 15 type of guy now. But Bill Algeo, on the other hand, is going to be a staple on the UFC roster. This guy will give anybody a tough fight. We'll move on now to the light heavyweight division. Dustin Jacoby took on Da Un Jung. And Dustin Jacoby was my guy the whole week. I like when I look at a card, I pick out like one fighter and I say this is the fighter I'm gonna root for hard no matter what. Dustin Jacoby has been my guy on several weeks, and I feel like he's forever underrated. The guy, I know he had a really tough run in MMA to begin with, but he went to Glory Kickboxing and he fought for the belt in just in the promotion where they just do stand up. So he's really one of the most specialized strikers in the UFC, and he's fighting Dong Jung. Dong Jung is on a 15-fight unbeaten streak heading into this. Sure, his wrestling looked good against William Knight, but that's a William Knight. William Knight is a very poor grappler in my eyes, and he knocks out a lot of guys, including who was it? Kenny Nzechukwu. And in this fight, a lot of people thought he would be able to knock out Jacoby or out wrestle him. I just didn't see that. Jacoby's got solid takedown defense. He's been dropped, but the guy gets right back up and he punishes you. And I thought he would win a 15-minute decision. Nope. Don Jung decides he's Yuri Prohaska. He starts moving his head around for no reason, starts getting real cocky, and Jacoby does not play those games. He knocks him out with a right hand. And the ref doesn't even let him follow up with ground and pound. Dong Jung is dazed and confused. Jacoby really made a statement. He's ranked now at number 13, and I can't believe the UFC had him fight another unranked guy. That's all he fights, unranked guys. He's now on a 7-fight unbeaten streak. It's now time for him to get a ranked guy.
Yeah, and I think that ranked guy should be Johnny Walker. Although I'm not trying to get Johnny Walker killed.
I kind of am trying to get Johnny Walker killed because I feel like he's been in these spots, in these main events where people say he's got a shot, but like people really didn't do their research on Johnny Walker pre-UFC. The guy's got a bad chin. He's got really bad gas tank, really bad submission defense. I kind of feel like Johnny Walker needs to be kicked out of the rankings just to humble him, quite honestly. I know he's on tough times, but if you're above a guy in the rankings, that's what you get for being in the rankings. Like, you're either good or you're not good in the UFC. And I just feel like Johnny Walker was very overrated, who fought a lot of chinning guys. And Jacoby's just... But hey, Johnny Walker has a real shot against Jacoby because you get Johnny Walker 2 minutes versus almost anybody. He really does have a shot of knocking them out. We'll move on now to Dwight Grant's loss versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Dwight Grant moved up a weight class, and it did not work out. His cardio looked awful in this fight, as it does in pretty much every fight. He's low output, as always, very reliant on his power. But the power was not what it was at welterweight here. He was landing some shots that would hurt guys at welterweight, but Dustin Stoltzfus, of course, he's a big, strong middleweight. He takes those shots well, and he was able to survive that first round. Come the second round, he gets a takedown, pounds on Dwight Grant. Dwight Grant is exhausted. Third round, he gets slammed, and then it's more of the same, a lot of ground and pound. I thought Dustin might be able to get him out of there. I felt like Dwight might have been the better fighter, but his gas tank is just really bad. Because on the feet, he was a way better striker. Dustin was always there to be hit, but yeah, when you just don't have that gas tank, it does not work out for you. Dwight Grant has now been cut as a result of this loss. I think it's a major mistake when fighters are on a losing streak and then they move up a division. I think that's always a bad move, because moving up a division, you're going to be fighting guys that can take your shots better and guys that will probably be able to outmuscle you. That's what happened to Dwight Grant.
Absolutely agree, and I couldn't have said it better myself. As you talked about, a good performance of Dustin Stoltzfus. I'm not ready to much to talk about that, but we'll swiftly move on to Emily Dakota. She put on a fantastic performance against Jessica Pena. Jessica Pena never really looked in this fight, and I feel like this was a really big coming out party of another, strawweight prospect in Emily Dakota, who's a former Invicta champion, and now she's making her way into the rankings of the UFC.
Yeah, Emily Dakota was somebody I was very confident in, but I didn't want to pull the trigger betting-wise because she's got a split decision against a 1-1 fighter in Bellator. But I will give her a pass in terms of her previous losses, because guess what? She was somebody that was fighting at the wrong weight class for a long time. She fought Alima Lay McFarlane in Bellator for the belt. But Alima Lay is a legit flyweight. Dakota, on the other hand, is a strawweight. And when she moves down to strawweight, her power really stands out. She's getting crazy KOs. She fought Danielle Taylor. Danielle Taylor went 15 minutes with Zhang Weili. Dakota sends her to the shadow round. One of the craziest women's MMA KOs you'll ever see. And against Jessica Penne, I thought Emily had a good chance of finishing Penne. Penne has been finished multiple times. In fact, she lost to Danielle Taylor. Penne, really not a good striker. In order to win, she has to control you with her grappling. And guess what? She didn't get a single takedown in this fight. So she just had to stand there and eat leg kicks by Dakota. She was pretty much handicapped come round 3. Somehow Penne survives that 3rd round. Dakota was super dominant, and this was a 3-0 shutout in my eyes. Dakota is damn impressive, and she's somebody that's definitely going to be cracking that top 15 soon.
Absolutely. If was Penne ranked? If so, it might have been maybe 14, 15.
Yeah, she was ranked at number 15.
Yeah, there we go. So maybe she might squeeze into the rankings. But a fantastic performance, a good way to kick off the card, and obviously the rest of it followed. Fantastic. Dustin Jacoby put an absolute staple performance. Herbert Burns and that situation, it was phenomenal. Ricky Simon absolutely shutting down Jack Shaw. Pino Soriano going back to his ways with that KO. Lauren Murphy shutting down Misha Tate. Shane Burgos charged down, putting on a phenomenal performance. Fantastic fight. Then one after that, Matt Chanel absolutely one up on them. They had the hardest fight of that night because they had to follow Shane Burgos versus Charles down, but they delivered.
Yeah, they certainly delivered. Also, we had the Leech finishing Muslim Salikov via knockout, and Lemos showing off her submission skills against Waterson Gomez, and of course we had Yair Rodriguez finding a way to finish Ortega on the ground. Crazy card. A lot of unpredictable finishes we had on this card, top to bottom. Who would have called Brian Ortega getting finished on the ground? Nonetheless, this is one of the funner cards of the year, and I really feel like the crowd helped out in firing up these fighters. We don't see that kind of finishes on the Apex that often, in my eyes.
It's just good to have crowds back, isn't it? Back to back. It's good.
Is there a better crowd in MMA than the London crowd in the O2 Arena? I don't think so. They showed it off last time. March 19th, 2022 is an unforgettable date for me. That was one of the best UFC fight nights I've ever seen. We had unforgettable moments. Well, more unforgettable moments this Saturday at UFC London. Blades versus Aspinall. This is a fantastic card, top to bottom. It's full of the stars that we had back at UFC London in March of this year. So I can't wait to preview this one. I've been thinking about this card for a very long time. We're looking at a lot of fun moments with a card stacked with European fighters. If you look at this card top to bottom, the diversity there is really impressive. And in the main event, we have one hell of a matchup. This fight is Chicago versus the UK. I'm a Chicagoan. Lenny is an Englishman. This is a fun one for us. But, I say we get right into this one. Curtis Blades taking on Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is on a run like we've never seen in the UFC. No man or woman has gotten 5 finishes quicker than Tom Aspinall in their first 5 UFC fights. He's an absolute menace, but if you look at the guys he's fought, are any of them on the caliber of Curtis Blades? Absolutely not. The best name Tom Aspinall has beaten in the UFC is Alexander Volkov. Alexander Volkov, when he fought Curtis Blades, he got mollywopped. He got dominated. He looked absolutely helpless. Curtis Blades broke the record for most heavyweight takedowns in a single fight, so that's why he looked completely exhausted. And he did lose around there on the feet because he was that tired. But against Tom Aspinall, in previous fights, I know this was several years ago, but come the 3rd round, he did look fatigued and he did get finished before. Curtis Blades has been in those championship rounds before, and I think he's going to drown Tom Aspinall in those deep waters. Tom Aspinall, I know he's been doing well for himself, but who's out there taking him down, putting him on his back? Nobody. This Tom Aspinall has spent 0 seconds on his back. 0 seconds. So when Curtis Blades gets him down on the ground, Tom Aspinall will be using muscles he hasn't used in the octagon before. He's gonna get worn out by this beast of a man that is Curtis Blades. You listen to Zach Pauga, the Ultimate Fighter 30 finalist. I asked him, who's the strongest guy you've ever grappled? He said Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, it's like grappling an Avenger. This guy's like, he's a monster. The only guys he's lost to in the UFC are the two hardest hitters in the history of the UFC. Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, record for the hardest punch in human history. Derek Lewis, most KOs in UFC history. I don't think Tom has that kind of heat, quite honestly. I know he's got super quick hands. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Curtis Blades will be able to defend those submissions from Tom on the ground. Tom Aspinall, he'll look really good early. He's going to beat Curtis on the feet. But you wear this guy out enough, Curtis Blades just needs the threat of the takedown. And Tom Aspinall's hands will be a little lower. He's going to be a little slower. He's going to get cracked with a big right hand in round 4. And he's going to get put away by Curtis Blades. See that, or Curtis Blades finishes him like he did Alistair Overeem with those big elbows. I just think Tom Aspinall has taken a step up too much. I know he beat Volkov, but I don't think he's ready for Curtis Blades yet. Curtis Blades is the worst matchup they could give him. And guess what, folks? Curtis Blades is an underdog. How do they have him as an underdog? I can't believe it. Lenny, what's your refutal? Are you picking Tom Aspinall?
It's absolutely crazy because obviously it's hard for me for an Englishman to pick against. And I completely agree. I think Curtis Blades is going to win this fight. Tom Aspinall put it perfectly in an interview himself. Like 10 months ago, he said Curtis Blades stylistically is the worst matchup for me. He says, if you give me a wrestler, I can handle him. I can defend the takedowns. If you give me a striker, I can hang with him. I can knock him out. But if you give me a fighter that can mix up stylistically, that's the worst type of matches. And I know what Oscar's about to say. It just popped up on my phone.
I don't know what's up with the UFC matchmaking Tom here. I thought they liked the guy, but Blades is not Blades is literally the guy that shuts down everybody. That's just what he does. He doesn't care about having exciting fights. He just cares about winning. And he's going to do to Tom Aspinall what nobody's done yet. Tom Aspinall's biggest wrestling test was Sergey Spivak. Sergey only had, I think he attempted like 3 takedowns. He failed to get him, and then Tom gets the early finish. But Tom has not fought even halfway into round 2. The latest finish he's gotten was against Andrei Arlovsky. And to me, he looked a little slower in that round 2. That's what Curtis Blades needs, man. And saying this, I'm banking on Curtis Blades fighting smart. Curtis Blades has not fought all that smart in a couple fights. Fought Chris Daukaus. I thought he could have had an easier fight for himself had he just gone and wrestled. But he decides to strike with Chris Daukaus. Sure, he gets himself that knockout, but he did put himself in harm's way there. I feel like he definitely should have looked to wrestle more against Tom Aspinall. Otherwise, we could see Tom Aspinall get some kind of crazy finish. But to me, I don't care what the odds say. I really see Tom Aspinall as an underdog in my head.
Absolutely agree. If you look at the recent competition, you talked about it. Who they fought, Curtis Blades, obviously getting knocked out twice by Ngannou, once by Lewis. But I think I said to you when this got announced, if Ngannou or Lewis won in the division, I truly believe Curtis Blades will be champion.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think outside of those guys, the guy that threatens him is John Jones, but John Jones has a lot of question marks around him. But for Tom Aspinall, if he wins this fight, I'm not going to doubt him all that much, but Curtis is just not the guy you want to fight if you're not that great of a defensive grappler. And for Tom, that's a real unanswered question. He's not fought a guy as good as Curtis Blades in the wrestling realm, so we're going to have those questions answered for us, and I cannot wait to find out. But for me, I'm quite confident that Curtis Blades will put Tom Aspinall in a very uncomfortable spot, and I think Tom Aspinall will be very worn out by wrestling, and I think he's going to get finished later in this fight. Yeah, Curtis Blades, he's been denied this title shot for a while now, and after this one, it's going to be hard to deny him. But then again, knowing the UFC, they'll probably give him the winner of Tuivasa versus Gane. So Curtis Blades has to make a statement in this one.
Exactly. And nine times out of 10, Lewis would not land that shot. We just saw something pretty wild that night with Derek Lewis knocking out Curtis Blades. MMA doesn't work on Derek Lewis, and we saw it again that night. But I truly believe Curtis Blades, as Tom Aspinall has put, this is the hardest match for him stylistically, and I think we're going to see that Saturday night. And it's a tough pill for me to swallow, but we're definitely going to see that one that night.
What's your official pick? Do you think he gets a decision or a finish?
I think he's going to finish him. It's either going to be in the later rounds or the fourth or the fifth round is what I like. I think the later it goes, is obviously Curtis Blades is going to look better.
Yeah, I say round 4 TKO for Curtis Blades. I do have a piece of breaking news for you. Johnny Walker has now announced his next opponent at UFC 279 on September 10th. It is not the matchup you'd want him to fight. Iwan Cutelaba. Iwan Cutelaba is in the next fight. I think Iwan Cutelaba is going to start it.
Yeah, Iwan Cutelaba in that first minute or two, he's a wild man, and he's going to land something big on Johnny Walker and put his lights out for sure. Definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, we're going to see a round one finish. That card is headlined by Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz. This fall is looking insane. It's looking absolutely insane for the UFC. We'll move on now to the co-main event. Jack Hermansson supposed to be taking on Darren Till. Darren Till pulls out due to a knee injury. Steps in the action man, Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis fought, what was it, 3 weeks ago? He fought Rodolfo Vieira, beat him by decision. To me, Chris Curtis did not look impressive in that fight. He had the takedown threat looming the whole fight. He defends successfully 20 takedowns. But if you look at some of those rounds, Rodolfo Vieira is landing the better head strikes. It's Chris Curtis' bodywork that wins some of those rounds. And for Jack Hermansson, he's a better wrestler than Rodolfo Vieira. He's very big, very strong, tall. I think this is not the best matchup for Chris Curtis, and this is not a matchup you want to take on short notice. Chris Curtis has a wrist injury after that Rodolfo Vieira fight. He's going to come in compromised, beat up. Jack Hermansson, on the other hand, he had a full camp to train for Darren Till. I think this is the fight where Jack Hermansson might be able to get some takedowns, but even if he doesn't, the takedown threat alone will leave openings for him on the feet, and I think we're going to get ourselves a close split decision. But I'm going to side with Jack Hermansson to win this fight. Jack Hermansson is a real middleweight. He's a middleweight with fantastic cardio. He had a very close fight with Marvin Vettori. I think Jack Hermansson should win this fight. Chris Curtis is a natural welterweight, and he's finally going to get reminded of that against Jack Hermansson. And I think so. But
absolutely agree.
Jack Hermansson get some kind of crazy knockout here because he just finds a way to find a needle in a haystack, man. He just finds a way to win these last couple of fights, even though when the card's stacked against him. But for me, the realistic pick is Jack Hermansson by decision.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think the wrestling, obviously, and the grappling of Hermansson is going to be too much for Chris Curtis. And I actually talked about Vieira and obviously Chris Curtis in his last fight, Rodolfo Vieira. Yes, he stuffed about 20 takedowns, but it was the threat that was on the feet that was actually paying trouble for Chris Curtis because he knew there was a takedown coming, and that's why he couldn't get his strikes going off. Because if he let himself go a little bit too much, he could risk getting taken down. So that's why he was just getting caught a little bit. And obviously in this one, I feel like I was talked about 3 weeks after his last fight. Hermansson now, I feel like this is a good fight for him. And obviously, short notice. I think Chris Curtis had talked about is injured. I think it's a good fight for Hermansson. And it's a good one for him. I think it's going to be 30-27 or 29-28 on the scorecards for Hermansson. I think the grappling and obviously the wrestling is going to be way too much. I'm not too sure who Chris Curtis trains with, but the grappling, I feel like for someone to get prepared for like Jack Hermansson, it's going to be a little bit too much.
So he trains with Albert Duraev at Extreme Couture.
I mean, Albert Duraev's a fantastic grappler.
Magomed Ankalaev is in that gym too. I don't know if he trains with him specifically, but that gym is full of killers. It's a really good wrestling gym. He also trains with Sean Strickland, and that's a very important piece here because Sean Strickland was the last guy to beat Jack Hermansson. He stuffed the takedowns, pieced them up with his jab. That's what Curtis should look to do. But for me, if I'm Jack Hermansson, I'm not gonna live or die on the grappling because the takedown threat is a real thing here. I think it bothered Curtis in the last fight. He got outstruck by head strikes against Rodolfo Vieira. That's not a good look. Rodolfo Vieira does not have a good gas tank. Brendan Allen doesn't have a good gas tank. Phil Haas doesn't have a good gas tank. Jack Hermansson has a good gas tank. And I think he's a very, very good wrestler, especially for MMA. I know he got dominated by Hamzat, but the guy's a big kid. He used to be a light heavyweight, and I think Curtis may get taken down here. And you got to watch out for those leg locks. You got to watch out for those guillotines. And you damn sure better watch out for that ground and pound from Jack Hermansson. So, Jack Hermansson is the guy to pick here by decision. Move on now to Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Leavitt. This, to me, is the fight that will have the most eyes on it. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, of course, one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now. Only 2 fights in, and he's already on everybody's mind, quite honestly, this fight week. The storylines around this guy are really special. Of course, he was already a superstar in Cage Warriors, already selling out arenas. And after his first UFC win over Luigi Vendramini, that was a first-round knockout, he gets signed to Barstool Sports, and that is a 7-figure contract he got there with Barstool Sports. So, Barstool Sports is owned by somebody that Dana White is a fan of and personal friends with. So, do you think Dana's going to help his boy protect his investment? Yes, Dave Portnoy. This is a real gamble he made because, to me, Paddy Pimblett is a very vulnerable fighter. He's not the greatest striker. He's not the greatest grappler either, in my eyes. And he's defensively irresponsible at times. So, Dana White will do the best he can to protect his friend's investment. So he's giving him guys like Kazila Vargas with bad submission defense. And now he's giving him Jordan Leavitt. A lot of people, I hear a lot of people this week saying Jordan Leavitt is a big test for Paddy Pimblett. I think that is hilarious. Luigi Vendramini has just as good jiu-jitsu as Jordan Leavitt, just good wrestling, and he's a way better striker than Jordan Leavitt. To me, Jordan Leavitt has basically zero stand-up. I don't even know if this guy knows how to box. He only has a leg kick on the feet. That's it. That is literally it. A leg kick, inside leg kick on the feet. That's how he won his last fight versus Trey Ogden. To me, Jordan Leavitt is not UFC caliber, and he's not beating a UFC caliber guy. He beat Matt Wyman. Matt Wyman is from season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter. He then fights, who was it? Matt Sales. Finishes Matt Sales. Matt Sales was overweight, and he's actually a featherweight. He then fights, who was it? It's Trey Ogden. Trey Ogden, short notice, not good. To me, Jordan Leavitt is very, very limited on the feet. Paddy Pimblett knocked out Luigi Vendramini on the feet. Vendramini is pretty legit on the feet. Paddy Pimblett will knock out Jordan Leavitt. Round 1 or round 2. Jordan Leavitt just doesn't know what he's doing on the feet. Should this hit the ground, Paddy is the better grappler in my eyes. Jordan Leavitt, not a good wrestler. So Paddy said it in his pre-fight press conference. He's going to look to stand and bank, knock this fool's head off. That's what he's going to do. I'm very confident in Paddy Pimblett. This is a fantastic matchup for him.
Absolutely agree with you. I think this is obviously tailor-made for him to get the job done and impress the UFC London crowd once again. When this music goes off, it's going to light up the crowd. It's going to be an absolute scenes to be able to watch, and I feel like when he gets the finish, when he gets the knockout in round 2, the arena is going to explode once again.
Yeah, I have if I'm Paddy Pimblett, what is there to fear? Paddy Pimblett is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Jordan Leavitt's not a great wrestler. Like, the only way Jordan Leavitt wins this fight is by out-wrestling Paddy. And I just don't really see that happening. Jordan Leavitt has nothing on the feet for him. Paddy Pimblett will be able to punish Jordan on the feet, and I really don't think Jordan is all that tough on the feet. So Paddy will look like a superstar in this fight, and his stock will definitely rise up, and people are going to be talking about him now fighting bigger names, which is hilarious because to me, Jordan Levitt is one of the most limited fighters on the UFC roster.
Absolutely. I like the way you said, and obviously, stylistically, this is a good matchup for Paddy Pimblett, and obviously we've got to see that Saturday night. Although I'll move for it because I want to see him winning, and obviously want to see him doing well. I think Paddy Pimblett's going to look good. He's going to knock him out in round 2. The only threat I see, as you talked about, from Jordan Levitt is the takedowns, but other than that, I don't think there's real threat coming his way. But on the striking, I think obviously Paddy Pimblett's going to have his way in the first round and the second round. Obviously, Paddy Pimblett said on social media that he wants the first round KO. But I have a sense, obviously, you two as well. Second round is where it's at. I think he's going to catch him in the second round. But yeah, fantastic matchup on the main card. Paddy Pimblett's going to get another win. But I feel like it's really been undershadowed, this fight here. Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson. It's been really overshadowed because obviously it's a fantastic card. They're on the main card. Obviously, this could possibly even main event a fight night in Sweden, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, for sure. Alexander Gustafsson is one of the greatest light heavyweights to grace his octagon. I know he doesn't have the names on his resume, but it's because he fought in an era full of killers. Anthony Rumble Johnson, Daniel Cormier, John Jones. Those are the guys he lost to. Outside of that, the guy has been steamrolling some world-class fighters. Shogun Rua wrecked him. He fought Glover Teixeira, the former light heavyweight champion, the guy who was 28 seconds from retaining the belt this year. He destroyed him, outboxed him for 5 rounds, and come the 5th round, Glover's corner says, you have to go get a knockout. So Glover walks forward at his own peril, gets uppercutted 3 times in a row. Teixeira really has got a good chin, but Gustafsson destroyed him that night. The Mauler is a really legit nickname because this guy fought Daniel Cormier 25 minutes, drops Daniel Cormier, gave Cormier the fight of his life. I think Gustafsson, really in a different generation, would have been champion. But let's get real here. His last win in the UFC octagon was 2017, that Glover Teixeira knockout. That was 5 years ago, folks. 5 years ago. And since then, he's not looked all that good. He fought John Jones. He tore his groin in that fight from a legal strike. He gets pounded out in round 2. Then he fights Anthony Smith. He's actually doing quite well against Anthony Smith. But he gets very tired. He gets taken down and submitted by Anthony Smith. And then he goes up to heavyweight because he's sick of cutting weight. And then he fights Verdum, gets submitted. To me, he didn't look like he was into that Verdum fight. And did I mention after the Anthony Smith fight, he retired. So if you're already retired, to me, I think that's kind of a warning sign to me that you're not really all in. Nikita Krylov, on the other hand, he's not even 30. I know the guy looks a little older. He's got a ton of experience, but not even 30. So he could theoretically have room to improve. But if we're being real with Nikita Krylov, kind of fights like an idiot in a lot of fights. He fought Paul Craig, and he fought Paul Craig what Paul Craig wanted the fight to happen. He gets Paul Craig on the ground, pounds on Paul Craig until Paul Craig finds an opening and gets a submission. I really don't think there's a worse game plan to fight Paul Craig in than trying to hit him when Paul Craig's on his back. So Nikita Krylov is a solid grappler, has a ton of first-round submissions. He even fought at heavyweight and knocked out Walt Harris. He's a very capable guy. In fact, I thought he beat Magomed Ankalaev in round 1. He got the first round in my eyes in that fight. He's very strong, well-rounded, but Gustafsson is a better striker. Brian Gustafsson wins this fight easily. In fact, probably finishes Krylov, but he's a little slower, probably less motivated. I will pick Gustafsson to win this fight because I do think he'll be able to do more damage on the feet, but if Gustafsson is not motivated for this one, we could easily see Krylov win like a boring fight here, get a lot of clinch control time up against the cage, get some takedowns. But Brian Gustafsson, man, the takedown defense he had was insane. Defending takedowns from DC, Jones, a lot of good takedown artists failed against him. So should Gustafsson show up in good form, he'll win this fight handily. But I think even a diminished Gustafsson probably can win a decision here.
Absolutely, this is obviously talked about a fantastic fight. Stylistically, I think as you talked about, Nikita Krylov doesn't fight the smartest. Alexander Gustafsson is, although he's going to have to be on his game this night. I think this is a big fight for him. As you talked about, and before the Anthony Smith fight, pretty much had one foot out the door. Well, had one foot outside the door. Retired and then came back and fought. Fabricio lost in that one. But this is a big one. 5 years without a win inside MMA. If he doesn't get it done this weekend, there's going to be no turning point for him to probably end his career. But this is big. I do believe we're going to see a big performance from either one of them. But I'm on the side of Alexander Gustafsson. I think we're going to see not the old Alexander Gustafsson, but I just going to think he's going to be the better man on that night.
Yeah. Obviously, judges are rewarding damage more than ever these days. And Gustafsson, I think, will be more capable of doing more damage. Definitely better boxer in this fight. And hopefully the takedown defense looks good in this one. And he'll win a decision here. We'll move on now to Molly McCann versus Hannah Goldie. Meatball is everybody's favorite fighter these days. She's really putting on a show every time she fights. She comes out like a woman on fire. Like, I really feel that her fighting in front of the Londoners is like steroids being injected into her. She looks so fired up. She's so willing to go right into the pocket and throw big bombs. And it's worked for her. She fought Luana Carolina in her last fight, and she really hurt Luana Carolina early in that fight. She got a little tired. Then she gets a big slam takedown. She looks so impressive in round one. Then round two, that was actually a close round because Molly McCann was so tired, but she still is able to get a takedown, get a lot of control time. Then come round three, she's still tired, but she's still swinging because she's got so much energy fighting in front of the Londoners. And she gets herself the spinning elbow KO, the best KO in women's MMA history. Just insanity. And she's going to fight hard for 15 minutes, even if she's tired, because she's so energized by the crowd. Hannah Goldie, on the other hand, I find it very difficult to tell you how she would win this fight. Hannah Goldie is obviously very physically strong, but she doesn't use that strength all that much. She likes to fight at distance and kickbox. She's more of a point fighter. In her last fight, she fought Emily Whitmire. She got judo tossed twice by Emily Whitmire, who's basically just jiu-jitsu. And she's the one that gets the armbar on Emily Whitmire. I would probably credit Goldie's improvements in grappling with her work with Jillian Robertson, but Hannah Goldie is not some black belt out here. I don't even think she's a brown belt. I don't even think she's a brown belt. So Molly McCann, where she has struggled against grapplers before, Goldie's just not that level of grappler that's gonna punish McCann like Lara Procopio did. She's just not on that level. And does Goldie have any real power? No. McCann has been dropped before by Diana Belbitsa. She got dropped by who was it? Ji Young Kim, but that was more of a headbutt. So if there's any concerns on McCann going into the fire and getting touched, Goldie doesn't have that fire to fire back and threaten McCann. So McCann will walk forward and do whatever she wants. And Hannah Goldie, when she fought Diana Belbitsa rocked her multiple times, had her dropped, I believe. I think McCann, with the steroids of fighting in front of the crowd, she gets herself a standing TKO finish in round two. I think McCann overwhelms her on the feet. She's a much better striker, much more powerful. Her physicality is a big deal. And if she wants to, she can just out-grapple Hannah Goldie and stay away from those arm bars. McCann is a super confident pick for me, just like Patty Pimblett. They gave Molly McCann, in my eyes, actually gave her a step down, just like Patty.
Absolutely agree. Everything you mentioned there is absolutely spot on. Molly McCann is going to look phenomenal in this matchup. A test in front of her, that's probably, as you talked about, a step down in competition. Jin Young Kim is obviously in a few fights ago. Jin Young Kim is a fantastic fight, and obviously, off the top of my head,
Luana Carolina.
Laura Catalina, very long, lengthy, and very tough challenge. Yeah, exactly. I think it's a fantastic matchup. One that they've put in favor of Molly McCann, and I think we're going to see another standout performance. I do like the finish, as you mentioned there, but I just don't see that happening unless it's obviously another spinning elbow or spinning back fist from Molly McCann. But yeah, I think this is going to go decision. I think Molly McCann is going to beat the brakes off her for 50 minutes.
Yeah, I really think that Molly McCann is prime for another crazy moment here at UFC London. Move on now to Paul Craig versus Volkan Oezdemir. I love this fight because I know for a fact that somebody's going to get finished in this fight. Paul Craig is like the Darren Elkins of light heavyweight. This guy, I know he'll struggle early. He pulled off the comeback, or one of the best comebacks I've ever seen, versus Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev, in my eyes, is the future king of the light heavyweight division. Paul Craig beat him. He's the only loss Magomed has on his record, so I will always give Paul Craig that credit. He got the tap with 1 second left in that round. So Craig, to me, is a guy that you better fade at your own peril, because you jump in this guy's guard. A lot of people have not lived to tell that tale. Jamal Hill gets his arm dislocated in that fight. Nikita Krylov in the last fight obviously got triangled. That triangle by Paul Craig is his signature submission, and should he get it on Volkan Oezdemir, he will get the submission. But he is the problem. Paul Craig, he's the comeback king. That means he's taking damage on the feet. He fought Kennedy Nchukwu, and he was getting pieced up for 2 rounds, then he gets the submission. I think Volkan Oezdemir is a very, very hard hitter. They call him No Time for a reason. He knocks out Jimmy Manuwa. He knocks out Ilir Latifi. In fact, he beat Alexander Rakic. Rakic is one of those guys that people thought was going to fight for the belt. Volkan Oezdemir outpointed him. So Volkan Oezdemir, to me, is very underrated these days. I know he had tough losses, fighting really, really good competition. But Paul Craig is not durable. I know he makes these comebacks, but you watch that Alonzo Menifield fight. That is not a good look. Alonzo Menifield is not a fine-tuned fighter, especially when he fought Paul Craig. He lands one big bomb, Paul Craig goes straight out. So I think Volkan will land that big bomb, knock out Paul Craig. You just have to hope that Volkan Oezdemir is smart enough not to engage in grappling, and he obviously better defend those takedowns. So I'm thinking Paul Craig gets knocked out and his big win streak ends right here.
I absolutely agree. I think this is a tough matchup for obviously Paul Craig. He loves to play possum in a guard, and I think Volkan Oezdemir is going to look at that and obviously see what happened of the fate of his previous opponents. You just can't go into that Paul Craig guard. It's probably one of the best in that division. It's fantastic, and if it gets you into this, his famous triangle, it's pretty much over. But Volkan Oezdemir, he hits like an absolute truck, and he's not had the best runners late. Getting knocked out against Yuri Prochazka, Magomed Ankalaev, 2 absolute killers. But if you look at Paul Craig, you talked about it, he's been knocked out against Alonzo Menifield, Tyson Pedro, finished a lot of times, and obviously went on a win streak. But if you look at his last fight against Nikita Krylov, he was pretty much out. He was out on his back, and Nikita Krylov just needed to let him up. And if it got to the feet, we'd probably talk about a different story right now. But a lot of fighters in the past have played his game plan, but I believe, as you talked about, Volkan Oezdemir is not going to play his game plan. He's not going to get into the guard. He's not going to, and obviously Paul Craig eventually he's going to play possum, but I think Volkan is going to be too smart and just too smart for it, and he's not going to get in the guard.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Volkan Oezdemir has had 2 sub-minute KOs in that octagon. He knocks out Misha Serkinov 28 seconds. Knocks out Jimmy Manuwa in 42 seconds. I'm thinking Volkan will return to his no-time ways here, and he's going to finally get some respect on his name, because, man, that Rakic win has aged so well, and nobody's giving him credit for it.
Absolutely. He fought for a belt as well one time against Daniel Cormier, so it showed...
That was DC, though. That a lot of people, they kind of wrote him off, but DC, obviously, Olympic-level wrestler. One of the best to ever do it. We'll now move on to the prelims. These prelims are stacked with up-and-coming fighters that will definitely make their names known after this card. Mason Jones taking this fight on short notice versus Ludovic Klein. Ludwig Klein originally was going to fight Ignacio Bahamondes on July 30th. Instead, he's fighting sooner, and he's fighting Mason Jones, and I think this is a nightmare matchup for Ludwig Klein. Ludwig Klein, he starts off his UFC career by knocking out Shane Young with a tremendous 1-2 head kick combo. And after that, he just hasn't looked as good since. He fought Nate Landwehr, and in that fight, the pressure gets to him. He gets tired. He gets submitted. Nate Landwehr doesn't really submit anybody. Then he fights Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is a known round one or bust kind of guy, and that was a split decision, I believe it was. Ludwig Klein, he rocks Devontae Smith in that first round, and Devontae Smith, he really gives Klein a tough fight in rounds 2 and 3. But Klein, if he really wants to win, he's gotta not get pressured here. He has to walk forward. But the problem with Mason Jones makes almost everybody walk forward. His pressure is crazy. He throws big bombs. And the good thing about Mason Jones, he's got a crazy chin. He fought David Onama, took all of David Onama's best shots. He fought Mike Davis, and that was a crazy fight there. And he did lose that fight, but he didn't get knocked out. He's got a great chin, and he's out of Team Alpha Male, so he will have a wrestling advantage in this fight. Even if he gets rocked, he can take the fight to the floor and wear out Ludwig Klein. I think this is a really bad matchup for Ludwig Klein, the former featherweight, taking on a big lightweight. I think he gets taken down in this fight a lot, gets worn out come round 3. Mason Jones finds himself getting a knockout here. I think Ludwig Klein's gas tank is really poor. And he, not only that, he's actually has to cut weight a week. Oh, is it a week sooner? Yeah, he's cutting weight a week sooner. So who knows how that'll affect him. I think Mason Jones is going to get a statement victory.
Absolutely agree. It's a fantastic matchup. Mason Jones came into the UFC, making his debut, weight class above in the welterweight against Mike Davis. Mike Davis is a fantastic, put on a fight of the night performance, split decision. Could have really went either way. An absolutely amazing fight, and obviously beat Alan Patrick and the eye poke. But we knew who was going to win that fight. It was evidently clear who was going to win that fight. Beat David Onama. Onama looked phenomenal on his debut. Lost that one, but really showed his true colors, how good he is. But yeah, Mason Jones is a different breed. We're going to see a fantastic performance here against Ludwig Klein. Ludwig Klein, I think I've said to you in the past that I was quite high on him after that Shane Young knockout. It was phenomenal, but since then, really not look too great, so really disappointing. But I feel like we're going to see Mason Jones dominating every aspect of MMA, grappling, striking, and in the clinch up against cage. I think this is where Mason Jones is going to really shine, and we're going to have a big roar from the crowd once the judges read out scorecards from Mason Jones' favor. Yeah,
Mason Jones this is his first fight in the UFC in the UK, so very excited to see him get this big victory. Move on now to another guy from the UK, Mark Jacasey, taking on Damir Hadzovic. Mark Jacasey, he showed up as D1 Jacasey in his last fight. He looked like a D1 wrestler out there. He fought Slava Claus in that fight. That was dominance from beginning to end. The amount of takedowns he got in that fight was so impressive. He got like 11 takedowns. And he's a guy that's been able to take down a lot of very talented guys. He took down Rafael Fiziev, Nasrat Haqparast, Joe Duffy. The names go on and on. And against Damir Hadzovic is a known guy that will tire out as the fight goes. I think Jacasey, if he wants to fight smart, should not look to standing bang with Damir, because Damir does have a shot of landing a big strike, just like Rafael Alves did, that led to the finish of Mark Jacasey. Jacasey has been finished before, but Damir, quite honestly, is not all that high level, and I think he's very vulnerable to getting out wrestled by Jacasey. Jacasey will find the way to win here with his wrestling, and once Jacasey's worn out, he can get himself finished if he wants. But I think he probably just sticks to the wrestling, just like he did against Vyacheslav Bolshev, and he gets himself a decision win here. This should be a dominant victory by Jacasey if he fights smart.
Absolutely agree. If he uses wrestling as he did in his last fight, he's going to make it look easy for himself against Borishev. Borishev, never really looked in that fight. A fantastic kickboxing prospect, striking, and obviously DKC used his advantages to his to get the win. And I feel like that's what he's going to do here. We've seen in the past, Amir, get frustrated after a loss against was it Ronald Moicano when he submitted him with the famous, the famous post-fight speech. It was but yeah, I feel like we're going to see another frustrating loss for Demir. I feel like DKC obviously suffered a few losses in the past. And I think that's really turned him into, a real fighter. And I feel like he's going to use everything to his ability to get this one done. And I feel like he's going to be, obviously, you talked about the grappling. And I think that's where he's going to really shine, is the grappling and the wrestling. Obviously, not how DKC probably want to get done. He likes his knockouts. He's very flashy with his knockouts. But yeah, who knows? We could see it happen. But I feel like DKC is going to use and utilize his wrestling to get it done.
I was mistaken about the guys that DKC took down. Did not take down Alves or Hackbass. It was actually Lando Veneta took him down 4 times, and he fought Frankie Perez, got 6 takedowns. So Chikese, he doesn't always wrestle, but when he does, I know he's got a 42% accuracy, but when he's relentless with that wrestling, he really does succeed with it. So I'm really liking his chances against Demir, and that's why he's a big favorite. He's one of the many big favorites on this card, and honestly, there's only one favorite that I'm really looking to go against. One of the bigger favorites I made. Next one is your guy, Nathaniel Wood, the prospect. He's fighting Charles Rosa. This is Wood's first fight at featherweight, at least the fight that he's moving up for. And he chose a really good opponent to do it against. Charles Rosa is a guy that somehow stuck around in the UFC. He was trading wins and losses, but now he lost 2 back-to-back. I really think Charles Rosa is going to be outgunned everywhere in this fight. Nathaniel Wood is a fantastic striker. He's got tremendous leg kicks. And I really like the fact that he can finish the fight wherever it goes. He's got a really good Darce choke here. Charles Rosa is a very tough guy to put away, but Wood does have a chance of doing it. But here's the big criticism I have of Charles Rosa. Charles Rosa has awful takedown defense. Awful. And off his back, he likes to go for submissions. And guess what? He never gets those submissions. I don't know when he's going to learn his lesson. But either way, he won't decide where the fight goes because he's going to get out-wrestled by Nathaniel Wood. He's going to stay on his back. His get-up game just isn't there. And his gas tank isn't there. This guy made This guy made Derek Minner look like he had a good gas tank. Derek Minner has never had a good gas tank. And Rosa offered such a little amount of adversity that Derek Minner was able to fight 15 minutes comfortably. And not to mention, Rosa got dropped in that fight by Derek Minner. Derek Minner is a straight-up grappler. So I think Wood is going to dominate this fight. Beginning to end, he's going to win a dominant decision.
Yeah, when this got announced, I was a bit, back and forth on it. I thought Charles Rosa, obviously, been around the block, a fantastic veteran. I talked about trade wins and losses, but obviously going back to back. The first time he's done that in a few, I'm not too sure when, but a few years. His last win would have been against Justin James. Justin James, split decision. Obviously, Nathaniel Wood's been out.
I didn't even think he won the Justin James fight either. He got rocked multiple times in that fight.
There we go. There we have it. And obviously, Nathaniel Wood's been away for a very, very long time. Moving up to featherweight. The reason he moved up to featherweight because he wants to fight more regularly. And obviously, that bantamweight cut is, I don't know if you've seen that video of him, but where he's sat there and he's all veiny and he looks, distressed. It's incredible. But he had 3 fights cancelled in a row. 3 fights he had to cut down to 135 pounds and didn't get to the fight. One of them, I think, on fight day, was that his last one in
Vince Morales
in UFC London? Yeah,
very
on fight day, he gets down to 135 pounds, but his opponent does not make the fight. Your heart literally breaks for this guy. He's cut weight so many times and not got to the fight, but I truly believe that he'll meet Saturday against Charles Rosa, and I do believe he's going to get the on the right way of the scorecards and the right way of the decision. But is it going to get there? That's the big thing. Nathaniel Wood's very good at striking, but I think he also excels in that grappling as well. He can really mix it up. We've seen in the UFC a few times he's got submission wins. His only loss comes to John Dobson and obviously Casey Kenny in a very, very close fight as well. Looked good in that fight against Casey Kenny, but I believe on the feet, Nathaniel Wood's going to get a better of Charles Rosa, and obviously on the ground, I do believe that as well. But a submission win in round number 2 for Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah, that would be something special for Nathaniel Wood. And I cannot wait for him to start getting some momentum because he was one of those guys for a long time that was on the outskirts. Well, no, he was actually ranked like number 15 at one time at bantamweight. And bantamweight is a fantastic division. Very excited to see what Wood can do at featherweight. He is a tall guy, so I really, really think he can do damage to a lot of these guys at featherweight. Move on now to another featherweight fight between Makwan, Mr. Finland, Americani versus Jonathan JSP Pierce. JSP is a big favorite in this fight, and I don't get it. Did people not watch his last fight? He's a 2-1 favorite. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. He fought Christian Rodriguez in his last fight. Christian Rodriguez is mainly a boxer out of 47 MMA. On the Contender Series, stuff takedowns, boxed the guy up. We didn't really know much about his grappling. Everybody just assumed JSP had this huge edge. But boy, oh boy, JSP put his head right into guillotines on multiple occasions. And they were very tight. I thought the fight was over. JSP was gurgling. It appeared to be over. And on the feet, JSP got very tired. And he started getting rocked with a lot of stuff. Mind you, Christian Rodriguez is a guy that is a bantamweight moving up on short notice, and JSP is getting almost finished on multiple occasions. Now he's fighting Makwan Americani. Makwan Americani is a very good wrestler. He takes down everybody in his UFC career outside of the guy he knocked out in 8 seconds. So Makwan will be able to be the better wrestler early in this fight. The big knock on Makwan, of course, is his gas tank. He will slow down, and that's when JSP probably would be able to win this fight. But I don't see this leaving the first round. When they're dry, that's when Makwan is most dangerous. He can get his anaconda choke. That is his signature choke. He gets it on anybody he tries it on. JSP showed he really needs to work on not submission defense, because he did successfully defend those submissions, but he put himself right in harm's way. He had his neck open for the taking. And you're telling me Makwan is an underdog against a guy that will have his neck right there to be taken? He's going to go right into the lion's den. Makwan will be able to get this submission in round 1, anaconda choke.
Absolutely agree. Obviously, we talked about the accomplishments and how good Makwan Americani is on that ground, and I feel it's going to be a full display. As you talked about, JSP in his last few fights, getting the nod over Omar Morales, Kaiko Maka, and obviously Christian Rodriguez, but lost to Joe Lozon. If you remember that Joe Lozon fight, damn,
that's a bad look. He did get his shoulder dislocated, but yeah, I really think Makwan is a serious submission threat for Pierce.
Absolutely agree, and I do believe you do. Obviously that his infamous anaconda choke you talked about. Got it in his last fight against Mike Grundy in them scenes of Mike Grundy get submitted in front of his family. That was not nice to witness that one. But yeah, it was really unfortunate. But yeah, I do believe Michael Americani is going to get submission win. I believe he gets it anyway. He pretty much won, so I think he's going to have his way with GSP on the ground.
Yeah, I really believe so. I'm really shocked to see JSP is this big of a favorite when he showed a clear hole. And if you want to talk just striking, Makwan, I think, is a better striker. Pierce really has not shown much on the feet at all. All he's shown is he can get pieced up by a bantamweight. So, not a good look. I think Makwan is definitely the side to take there. We'll move on now to one of the biggest prospects in MMA, Mohamed Mokaev, and he's taking on Charles Johnson. This line is way off, folks. A lot of people don't know who Charles Johnson is. Charles Johnson is a guy that trains at Tiger Muay Thai. He's taken several boxing fights and won some of them. He's a better boxer than Mohamed Mokaev, there's no doubt. And if you were to ask me who has the better casting, I would say it's Charles Johnson too. Charles Johnson has fought 5 rounders easily, In fact, his last fight was a flyweight title fight in LFA. He gets a 5th round TKO against an undefeated prospect. So Charles Johnson to me is the real deal. He's definitely a UFC caliber guy. But the problem is this fight is 3 rounds. So Makhaev will definitely have will definitely not be, out of his league here. I think he will be able to take down Charles Johnson, but Charles Johnson does have a solid get-up game. In terms of the striking with Makhaev, it's just such a mystery because most of his fights are amateur fights. What do you want me to take away from amateur fights? Those are literally amateurs. He's 7-0, and of course his last fight he fought Cody Durden, and we didn't learn much about the guy because he really didn't face any adversity. He got a flying knee, then he gets a guillotine. So not really much there we learned about him, about how he deals with adversity. He has never lost, and I think Charles Johnson will give him one hell of a fight here. And I think we're going to see Makhaev win a decision, but this could remind you of the Khabib versus Tebow fight, where Gleason Tebow was the first guy that really gave Khabib all he could handle, close decision. I think we're looking at something similar, but Makhaev will of course get the hometown nod because he will be able to get top control often in this fight. But don't sleep on Charles Johnson. Makhaev is minus 470. I think Makhaev is more of a minus 170.
This is a fantastic fight, and everything you said there was absolutely, obviously spot on. I believe the Makhaev train, and I feel like we're going to be on full show once again Saturday night. I see it even. I think getting a finish in the first round or the second round. I think it's going to be a submission win. I think Muhammad Makhaev is the future. He's the next thing, and I think this is just another chapter in his book, and that we're going to see against Charles Johnson. And obviously, talked about a very credible Charles Johnson. He's only lost one of them came to Brandon Royval. As you talked about, He has boxing experience, professional boxing experience. So on the striking wise, that's where you're seeing a little bit of trouble with Makhaev. But I see Makhaev, getting this one down to the ground and getting a submission win against Charles Johnson. Either the guillotine, either not the guillotine, either the Kimura or the straight armbar is what I like for this one. Makhaev is a phenomenal grappler. But he's more of a position over submission type of guy. But I feel like maybe he's going to get submission in this one. But yeah,
I don't think he's as good of a grappler as Brandon Royval, and Brandon Royval could not submit Charles Johnson. So I'm thinking this goes to the scorecards here. And Makhaev definitely will have a scare in this fight.
Absolutely agree. Muhammad Makhaev for me is going to go. This either submission in the first round or second round is my pick for Muhammad.
Yeah, I'm taking him by decision. We'll move on now to your other guy, Jay Herbert versus Kyle Nelson. Jay Herbert, I feel so bad for him because there's 2 fights he's had now in the UFC where he has looked incredible. He's piecing the guy up. He knocks him down, but he gets clipped by that one punch and the fight's over. Jay Herbert is not very durable. He actually got knocked out by Reese McKee. Reese McKee is not a hard hitter. So Jay Herbert is never a guy I really want to have all that much confidence on. Kyle Nelson, on the other hand, this guy is a featherweight. His first UFC fight was at lightweight. He fought Carlos Diego Ferreira, and he was able to rock him. But as he usually does, he gets tired, and he's vulnerable to get finished. That's what happened against Billy Q. He actually gave Billy Q one hell of a fight, but 8 seconds into round 3, one punch from Billy Q puts out Kyle Nelson. Also, Kyle Nelson, when he fought Matt Sales. Matt Sales is not a good grappler. He's not. He got submitted by Jordan Levitt with a reverse triangle. And Kyle Nelson finds himself getting gassed after chasing the finish early, and he gets submitted with an arm triangle. Jay Herbert obviously not looking to grapple here. He likes to box, and I think he'll be able to knock out Kyle Nelson here. Kyle Nelson, he's not a lightweight, not a real lightweight. And the last guy that was moving up from featherweight that Jay Herbert fought, Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is a blue chip prospect from the featherweight division. And Topuria was an enormous favorite. Topuria was my most confident pick on that card. He gets dropped with a head kick, and Jay Herbert was punishing him that first round. But he gets hit with that combo and then gets knocked out. But I don't think that Kyle Nelson is as durable as Ilia Topuria, so I'm thinking Jay Herbert knocks him out round 1. Either way, I see somebody getting knocked out here.
Absolutely agree, and I believe you did the same pick with you. I think Jai Herbert's going to absolutely starch Carl Nelson, and absolutely put on a fantastic performance. We seen it against Polo Reyes. That's where we saw not Polo Reyes, sorry, Jai Herbert when he fought Conor Worthy. He let his hands go, got to submit, got to finish, but Conor Worthy, as we know, notoriously not a very good chin. And I feel like Carl Nelson, obviously, he's been knocked out a few times in the past. Got knocked out against Billy Quarantino's last fight. Got knocked out by Diego Ferreira. That was ground and pound though. It wasn't really a knockout, but yeah, his chin has come up a few times, and I feel like Jai Herbert is going to really starch him in this one. Jai Herbert early on, obviously he talked about looks really sharp, looks really good. Knocked down Ilia Topuria in his last fight. Inches away of winning that fight and absolutely derailing the featherweight train. Imagine the scenes if he knocked him out, starched it would have been insanity. But obviously, Ilya done what he done and absolutely starched Jai Herbert. So it shows how good Ilya is at the same time because he could take shots and come back and win. But I believe in this one, Jai Herbert isn't going to give Carl Nelson a chance to come back and win. He's going to absolutely starch him in round 1 and number 2.
Yeah, and Jai Herbert's 6-inch reach advantage definitely should help him out here in getting that KO. We'll move on now to the next fight at women's flyweight. Mandy Bone versus Victoria Leonardo. Mandy Bone, this week a lot of the fans are calling her Mandy Bone because, boy oh boy, you look at her outside of the UFC competition, it is sketchy as hell. She fought a lot of women with losing records, a lot of low-level fighters, and the one time she gets tested outside of the regional circuit in Bellator, she goes to the UFC, undefeated, 7-0. She might have been a favorite versus Ariane Lipski. I can't remember. But, boy, in that fight, she didn't look good in any facet of the game. She gets dropped twice. She gets out-grappled by Ariane Lipski. Ariane Lipski, the big knock everybody has on her, she's not that good at grappling. She mauls Mandy Bone. Mandy Bone, to me, is not a high-level fighter by any stretch of the imagination. She's somebody that just had a good-looking record and just was not tested until she went to the UFC. And I don't think she's UFC caliber. She's fighting Victoria Leonardo, which I'm not entirely sure is UFC caliber either. On the Contender Series, she fought Chelsea Chandler, who was 3-0. Chelsea was the favorite to win the fight. She's piecing up Victoria, but Victoria gets herself a takedown. She gets top mount and pounds her out, gets a finish. Victoria Leonardo is actually a capable finisher. She's got some submission wins, the ground and pound wins. And in the UFC, boy, oh boy, she had a really bad draw. She fought Manon Fiorot in her first UFC fight. That is bad news for anybody. Then she goes on to fight, Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto had a 2-year layoff, and she showed up as a good striker out of nowhere. She kicked so hard, she broke Victoria's arm in the first round. So Victoria fought round 2 with a broken arm, and the fight gets called off. So she's fought very, very dangerous fighters. Even outside of the UFC, she lost to Miranda Maverick twice, lost to Erin Blanchfield. She's fought better competition than Mandy Bone. I think she should win this fight with her grappling. Mandy Bone, probably the better striker because Victoria is so defensively irresponsible on the feet, but Victoria will be able to get some takedowns, will be able to stay in top positions because Mandy Bone showed she had no get-up game against Ariane Lipski. So I'm picking Victoria Leonardo by decision as an underdog.
Absolutely agree. I think if you look at Mandy as well, if you look at her record, there's not any notable names outside obviously that that sole fight in the UFC. Other than that, she had a few fights in Bellator in the regional scene, but there's not many credible wins that we can really give her. No standout performances that you can really give her. In the Bellator, she fought a 5-3 fighter, got the win, but there's nothing to really supplement me to give confidence in this pick. It's really hard for me to pick out, as you were talking about. Victoria Leonardo has fought, the tough luck of the draw inside the UFC as of late. Mandy Bone, maybe this will be a coming out party, but I just think Leonardo is just going to get just going to get the better of her. Submission win is probably what I like as well. If you look at Victoria Leonardo, she has a lot of ground and pounds, a lot of arm bars, a lot of rear naked chokes. So definitely a possibility in this one. And I believe that obviously Mandy Bone, the train is really not there, and it really hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, I really agree with you there. I know she's got a big old 7-inch reach advantage here, but Victoria Leonardo is good at closing the distance, making it ugly, and that's how she's got to win this fight. But if it stays kickboxing, Bone probably pieces it up, but I don't think we see that. Move on now to the opener at welterweight, Claudio Silva versus Nicholas Dalby. I'm very excited for this one. Nicholas Dalby, he is a slow starter. So slow, he fought Jesse Ronson, a lightweight who showed up on steroids that day, knocks down Nicholas Dalby and chokes him out. And that's a real concern here because he's fighting Claudio Silva. Claudio Silva, in terms of his skill set as a whole, it's really just the jiu-jitsu. The stand-up is very limited. He's not all that good, and he's really, in my opinion, he's very awful once he gets out of the first round. That's when he really shows his age there. He shows he's very worn out, and the gas tank just isn't there, and it's shown itself multiple times. I know he was on this tremendous 7-fight win streak where he beat the likes of Leon Edwards and Danny Roberts, but you look at those wins. Leon Edwards, very inexperienced as an MMA fighter at the time. In fact, that was a split decision, and Danny Roberts, he's losing that fight. And Danny Roberts makes the mistake of engaging in grappling. So Claudio Silva, to me, is not that dangerous if he's not on the ground. Nicholas Dalby, on the other hand, he's got that karate style. And that karate style led him to beat Daniel Rodriguez. He's the only guy to beat D-Rod in the UFC. I know that was a robbery in my eyes, but still. He's still a very capable striker. He fought, his last fight, I believe, was a loss to Tim Means. Dalby could get dropped in a lot of fights, but those are very dangerous strikers. Claudio Silva will not bring that heat on the feet. He will look to get the takedown early. He probably gets it, in fact, but I think Dalby might be able to defend himself in that first round, but I really think the much better striker is Nicholas Dalby. Dalby's not that bad a wrestler either, so I'm thinking Nicholas Dalby wins a dominant unanimous decision. In fact, I want to rule out a late TKO because Claudio Silva late in those fights looks awful.
Absolutely, and that's why I picked Nicholas Dalby. If you look at his last 3 fights, Tim Means, really not gone his way, and obviously Daniel Rodriguez getting the win. You're really not sure what type of Dalby we're going to get when he approaches fights, but I believe this is going to be a Dalby that wants to get the win. Obviously needs to get a win off the back of a poor performance against Tim Means. He needs to go in there, put himself back onto the map. Coming back into the UFC after a Cage Warriors run, he really needs to make this one a successful one, and I feel like this is a good way of going towards that. And I think obviously Silva, a lot of submission wins on his record. If you look at his obviously your win over Leon Edwards, a submission win over Danny Roberts, as you talked about, Nadim Taleb. He's been around before. He ran into James Krause and Court McGee, 7-fight win streak, as you mentioned. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be 3 back-to-back losses of Claudio Silva, and Nicholas Dalby is going to fall into the hands of that. And I think it's going to be a decision. I don't see a finish in this one, but if it is a finish, I would probably favor Silva.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got the big jiu-jitsu edge in this fight. Dalby, nobody gives him credit for this, but he had a draw with Darren Till. He got a 10-8 round versus Darren Till. But, of course, Darren Till, he had an injury in that 3rd round. That's why Dalby was able to get that 10-8. But still, he also beat Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos back in the day. He beat Alex Cowboy Oliveira. So he's definitely, in my eyes, he's beating the way better names. I know the Leon Edwards name is good, but at the time wasn't all that impressive. So for me, I think we're going to kick off the card with a Dalby decision victory. And this is going to be a very fun card. There's no doubt to me that we're going to see a lot of the Europeans get their wins here in the UK, and the pops will be huge. We know that crowd is very enthusiastic like none other.
Absolutely, I can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic event for myself. Obviously, watching a lot of Brits fighting. And I think that's the most important thing. Obviously, watching the Brits fighting, whether they win or lose. It's good to see them. Doing their thing, doing their job. I'm just excited to see Nathaniel Wood. Hopefully, touch wood, fights this Saturday. And obviously, Paddy Pimblett. Molly McCann, the absolute star that she is right now. We got a fantastic card this weekend. Obviously, I hope Tom Aspinall gets it done. I'd love to see Tom Aspinall, beat Curtis Blades. So I could probably brag to Oscar Silva.
Yeah, could we expect any post-fight interviews from any of these fighters? We've had Jay Herbert and who was it, Nathaniel Wood previously on the card. Obviously, Paddy Pimblett before, but Paddy Pimblett, he forgot about little guys like us.
Definitely, I'd love to try. I've tried Mason Jones a few times, so hopefully after this one, I can try him again. If he gets the win, Molly McCann, I think she's a little bit too big for us now as well. But yeah. Chris Curtis, I know he answers the DMs. I can maybe try him. But yeah, if not, I can talk to Nathaniel Wood. Depends on how it goes. If he has a fantastic performance, Mohamed Mokeev, he's not too prone of doing interviews. Jay Herbert could get back on. He's always an entertaining interview. He's got really good charisma as well, so that would be good to get back on. But yeah, seeing what happens this weekend, I'd love to get some fighters on next week. Obviously, the Brits, that would be good to get on because it's always good to speak with a fellow Brit.
Yeah, always love the interviews. I really think in terms of I don't think this will top the first UFC London, but if certain people win, it definitely could. Like if we see Tom Aspinall get some crazy knockout over Curtis Blades, we'd definitely be talking about that. But let's be real. Paddy Pimblett and Molly McCann are the two most marketable people, I would say, and they have the partnership with Barstool Sports. I think as long as they win, we're looking at a very fun card with a lot of people walking out happy.
Absolutely agree. The Molly McCann could easily main event a show in Liverpool herself. So
for sure,
it's ridiculous. She's got really good star power. We're gonna definitely go see it this weekend. We got a fantastic event. I absolutely can't wait. I'm pretty sure that wraps it up for this episode. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, for sure.
I accidentally kicked myself out the booth there. Sorry about that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the episode. Anything else that you'd like to mention before we end it?
No, just these recent fight announcements have been absolutely insane. Like I really can't believe my eyes when you look at some of these cards on paper already. UFC 280 will be the card of the year.
Absolutely, I can't keep up. Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan. I mean, Sean O'Malley Sean O'Malley didn't beat Pedro Munoz and was losing that first round or lost that first round.
So I believe Pedro was number 8 and he lost the first round to number 8 and he's getting upgraded to number 1. It makes no sense to me. I think this is way too much of a step up for Sean O'Malley, and Sean O'Malley, he can make little excuses here and there. The Pedro Munoz fight, he claims he won. The Marlon Vera fight claims he won. With Petr Yan, there's not going to be any claim to him winning that fight in my eyes. Might lose the first round, but after that, when Yan makes his reads, when Yan decides to wrestle here and there, Sean O'Malley will be completely unmatched.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. I mean, when Peter Yan can mix up so well, as you're talking about, it's gonna be a phenomenal fight, a dangerous match, and obviously, Beneil Dariush versus Mateus Gamrot as well.
Wow, I think Beneil Dariush is gonna get kicked out of that mix after he gets knocked out by Mateus Gamrot. Mateus is he's better than him pretty much every year. I think in pure jiu-jitsu, maybe Beneil's better, but Mateus really can defend everything Beneil brings to the table, and Beneil's durability is definitely in question. I think we see Gamrot get a knockout there, but when we have that preview show, I will go on for probably a good 3 hours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you all next week where we get to talk about it all and also talk about UFC 277.
Oh yeah, that is a fantastic card on paper. We have the biggest rematch in women's MMA history. We have the return of Brandon Moreno fighting for the flyweight belt once again. Derek Lewis. Who else is on that card? Anthony Smith, Magomed Ankalaev. Alex Perez versus Pantoja. Really fun card.
Drew Dober. Obviously, Dontel Mays versus
Alves. That is crazy.
Yeah. Draco Close as well. And that's pretty much Blood Diamond as well. But
Morono versus Semmelsberger is the prelim headliner.
Yeah, so yeah, a good card. Obviously, them two fights at the top is really, the main event. What we're looking forward to. That co-main event is ridiculous, but yeah, we get to talk about that all next week. So make sure you tune in same time next week, Tuesday next week. So it'll be earlier. I couldn't make it this Tuesday, but this Tuesday I should be able to make it hopefully. But yeah, tune in Tuesday, 6 p.m. British summer time, and obviously 12 p.m. standard time.
Yes, Central Time.
Central Time. There you go. You have so many time zones over there. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. So
yeah.
But yeah, have a good weekend. Have a good fight. I hope they enjoy. Hopefully we have some good talking points to talk about. But yeah, we'll talk to you all next week on Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining us.